Okay, so hello everyone. We are back on live now, and yeah, good to see everyone and viewers. Thank you for your continuous support. This evening, and I know that well in the UK and in Ghana it's evening time, 7 p.m., 6 p.m., and then I know that it is afternoon in some other countries, and other countries have different time zones. So the topic today, or the topic for discussion, is achieving best outcomes for children with special needs. And this, this evening, this afternoon, this day, depending on where you are, we have this, we have our panel over here who are experts, in this area, who have been, working in this area, and some have real life experiences, which they will be sharing with us. So it is going to be an interesting discussion. It is going to be an interesting discussion. We need your comments, ask your questions. We want you to participate. We want you to contribute to the discussion. And we are all learning. We are all doing this together. And yes, we are learning. So without much ado, I would ask our panel over here to introduce themselves. So first of all, we would go to Juliet. Juliet, is it okay to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and anything we need to know about you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Juliet Lardy, and I am an educator. I have been an educator for a little bit over 10 years, and I've serviced early elementary, middle school, and high school age students. I reside in the United States, in the state of Texas, and I am just here to share my wealth of knowledge with you guys, and welcome to our show.
Thank you. Is it okay to go to William, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is William Vanderpoy. I'm an early years teacher and an autistic advocate. I've got a diagnosis of autism, and I'm also the director of an organization called Autistic Inclusive Meets, or AIM. And the organization organizes activities for autistic children and autistic adults, and also campaign against harmful treatments of autistic people in the form of fake cures and harmful treatments. I'm also an early years teacher. I've been teaching for the past 7 years. So that's it about me. I hope you enjoy this show.
Wow, we can't wait to hear from you and Juliet. Okay, so we would move on to Madam Clarice.
Hi everyone, this is AC Deng, or Clarice Angafor. I'm the parent of an autistic 14-year-old. I'm an autism advocate, an autism ambassador in a community here in Hampshire, UK. And I'm the founder of Can Abilities, which is a charity, a UK registered charity that raises autism awareness. And then I hold the first postgraduate in autism and Asperger. I look forward to sharing my knowledge and my expertise experience with all of you. And thank you for having me on the show.
Wow. Viewers, I told you we've got the experts over here. All right, so we go to our own Madam Sewa.
Yeah, my name is Sewa Kweno, and I've been doing autism for quite a long time. My son, who is autistic, is 38 years old, and he was diagnosed at the age of 2. That's quite early, back in the United States. And I found myself coming to Ghana after some difficulties. I was ill. So I had said I wouldn't come back to Ghana, but I found myself coming to Ghana, and then became the founder of the Autism Awareness and Training Center, which has been functioning for about 22 years.
Wow.
And when we started this, it's something that fell into my lap. I really didn't plan on this. But as God would have it, he wanted me to help other families as well. So I've been doing this for 22 years, and I've been an advocate since I came, and been working with people across the continent and across the diaspora. So thank you for having me, and enjoy the show.
Wow, thank you, Madam Sewa. Madam Sewa, just to come to you, just for some further information around the wonderful work you are doing in Ghana. I mean, for all these 20 years. So, in terms of training, are you able to offer training to people? I mean, are you based in Accra?
Yes, we are based in Accra, but we've been working all across Ghana, actually. And when it comes to training, I'm thankful to say that I've had people from the United States, all over, Canada, the UK, Germany. We get volunteers who come, and most of them are specialists. We get speech therapists, we get ABA therapists, we get OTs, and you name it, across the gamut of autism treatments.
Wow.
We get them. But then when you come, we have an eclectic program. So we don't say, oh, this is the only program that works for this person. Because as you see one child with autism, you have seen that child with autism. So you have to tailor whatever treatment you are making for that child. So I don't particularly say, oh, this treatment, of course, the HBGB treatments don't work, but there are a lot of treatments that we work with, and also we try to make it culturally based, because you cannot come from the UK and come and tell us this is the way it is done.
Of course,
sorry, but because I have lived with autism my son is now 38, diagnosed at 2, so I have seen, and it is what has worked with him that I try to do in Ghana. And through doing this, we've seen different children. Now we have children between the ages of 3 and adulthood. I think the oldest child, apart from my son, is 24 now. So we've seen different things. Sometimes a particular treatment has helped, but then you have to change. You don't just have to say, oh, I am doing this particular thing, and then that's what's working for your child. Because another time, the children do change over the years. And then you have to sit and say, okay, now, where do I go? What do I do now? So I talk to different people. I talk to AC and different people across the world that I've come across, in New Zealand, Australia, everywhere, whenever we need help. So we take videos and show to the specialists and see how they can support us. And some people train us on a regular basis. And we have somebody in the States who does called Everything Autism. Yeah, plugging her. And she's amazing, because we know that autism is not a behavior difficulty. It is a communication challenge. And it's important that people get that into their heads, because a lot of people say autism, oh, it's a behavior difficulty. No, it isn't. The child cannot communicate, therefore they have behavior challenges. So this is what we've been doing. We work with a lot of specialists. Yeah.
Wow, it's such a privilege to have you on the show, and obviously we would learn more as we go along, and over the few sessions we would have you on here. In terms of William, you did mention that you have been diagnosed with autism. Could you tell us a bit about that? At what age were you diagnosed, and before that, what was happening to you? And yeah.
Okay, I'm now 42 years old, and I was diagnosed at the age of 40. Prior to that, I spent most of my life, or I would say my whole life, just going under the radar. At the point where I was growing, or at the geographical location where I grew up, there was nothing about autism at that time. I grew up in many places. I grew up in France, I grew up in Ghana, and in both places there was nothing about autism, so I didn't get any support whatsoever. Yeah, I was just seen as the quiet one. My behavior wasn't challenging as such. I was just very quiet, very compliant, and unusually obedient during my childhood. I didn't have many friends. And if you take me on top of a building and you tell me to jump down, that's exactly what I'll do. I'll jump down.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like the term unusually, obedience.
Yes, obedient and compliant. And when I grew up in my teens, I was quite pedantic. Yeah, I used to take everything that I was told literally. My main challenge was the ability to make friends. People found me weird, strange, but apart from that, they saw me as quite a smart guy. I was a bit of an underachiever when I was in primary school, but once I hit secondary school, I was always among the top people of the
Wow,
class.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. And so what led to you being diagnosed? What led to that?
Oh, that's another story. I was working as the head of English as an additional language in a secondary school, and I was given one of the children to look after. It was a young boy from Turkey. He was very intelligent. He could speak perfect English, but he was underachieving. So they placed him under my care because my duty was to look after children who came from abroad to support their English language. Now, I told the SENCO, the Special Educational Needs Coordinator, that this gentleman is quite bright. He doesn't need me. He speaks perfect English. I think he should be under your care. But the Senko said, no, he's from Turkey. He belongs to me. So fine, I took him. And as I began to build a rapport with this boy, I realized that he took everything that I said to the letter, literally. Once I told him to come and say hello to me once in a while. After a while, I was behind my computer when he just came. Hi, sir. I moved my chair thinking that he was come to speak to me. And he just said hi and just walked off. I was like, wow, this happened about 2 or 3 times. Then I remembered that I told him that he should come and say hello to me once in a while. So I spoke to some of my colleagues to find out how I could support him best. And they mentioned something very interesting. They said that he might have something called Asperger's syndrome. And I said, what's Asperger's syndrome? Because I speak French, and to me, asperge means asparagus. So, so that's what it meant to me. And I said, no, that's not it. It's a neurological condition. So that's what led me to the path of researching what Asperger's syndrome was so that I could help this little boy. But now, as I began to read, I was led to one material from Dr. Tony Atwood called the Asperger's Syndrome Handbook. As I was reading this book, I was like, has this man been reading my emails? Has he been spying on me? Has he been stalking me? Because literally in that book was my entire life history. That was my epiphany, an eye-opening episode for me. So that's what led me to pursue a diagnosis. But that wasn't the end of the story. It took me 5 solid years as an adult, as a Black adult who had a job, who is married, who appears to be functioning like everyone else, to get a diagnosis. Because they say that no, you don't need 5 years. It took me 5 years to fight for a diagnosis because they don't want to diagnose me. Yeah.
Wow. That is wow. Thanks for sharing your story, William. And in terms of, in terms of Clarice, I know you were talking about your son. Could you tell us a bit more? I mean, at what age was he diagnosed? And could you tell us a bit, what led to you, going forward, putting him forward for the assessment?
All right. Thank you so much once more for having me on the show tonight. He was around 3. As we are going to look further into the discussion, we will see that premature birth is a risk factor for someone to be autistic. So he was born at 24 weeks, and that's how his difficulties started. So we had always expected a delay of some sort. So autism was finally brought up in addition to the other difficulties he has. When he was around 3, when I saw more into his delay, because normally he has global developmental delay, but I watched a movie once and I realized that there was that rocking, the flapping of hands, putting the switch on and off, the doing things repeatedly. So the next time we went to see his consultant, I mentioned that I watched these movies and I showed him what I had documented, I had written down. And the next appointment after 6 months, autism was one of his conditions. Wow. So in a way, I actually diagnosed him with autism, and I just mentioned it to his consultant. Yeah. So, but in the course of our discussion, when we're talking about the causes or the risk factors of autism, premature birth is actually one of them. So
yeah, it's quite interesting that you've mentioned premature birth because incidentally, I was born prematurely as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. We are learning a lot.
Yes.
Wow. We are learning a lot. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Clarice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we will be moving on to look at, when we talk about, obviously, we are looking at achieving best outcomes for children with special needs. So when we talk about special needs, what do we really mean by that? And what comes under the umbrella of special needs? Juliet, are you able to help us with that?
Yes, I am. So I'm going to go over a few things briefly, so just listen along. So special needs are particular education requirements resulting from difficulties, physical abilities, or emotional or behavioral difficulties. Some of these needs are ADHD, ADD, ED, which is classified as emotional disturbance. And particularly today, we're going to focus on autism. So we're going to look into see what does it look like, how does it affect the student, which is the child and their family, and how the behaviors can be exhibited. So autism, or autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD, is a developmental disorder. It affects how people communicate and interact with each other and how well they behave and learn. Autism is a lifelong, condition, and symptoms can appear when a child is young. So sometimes we can see it in the early years when they're about 3 or 4. We can see it in middle school. We can see it in adults as well. But autism cannot be cured, but therapy and support systems help students with ASD and often help improve their symptoms and their quality of life.
Wow. So, from what I heard from Juliet, it says that autism is a lifelong developmental delay and it has no cure. And I believe that it's about how best we support the child or young person with autism to live their full potential in life or attain that full potential. Okay, so we would be coming on to, so in terms of autism, obviously, as Juliet said, we for this evening we will be concentrating on autism, having acknowledged that under the umbrella of special needs, we have autism, we've got ADHD, we've got cerebral palsy, and we've got learning difficulties and all that. So in terms of autism, Clarice, are you able to help us with in terms of how prevalent is this? How common is this? How many people are having it?
Yeah, according to statistics taken from National Autistic Society, we have around 7,000 people may be autistic, or more than 1 in 100 in the population. And the information from National Autistic Society also says that the latest prevalence studies of autism indicate that 1.1% of the population in the UK may be on the autism spectrum. So this means that over 695,000 people in the UK may be autistic. Then an estimate derived from the 1.1% prevalence rate applied to the census in 2011. So I actually discovered that it's quite it's interesting that they don't really have accurate information on how many children or how many adults are really there who are autistic because of one reason or the other. And then also, the prevalence of autism nowadays actually varies. When you look at statistics over the world, the autism seems to have increased. The number of individuals being autistic seems to be on the rise.
Wow.
But some schools of thought do argue that maybe it's because of environmental factors, because of so many things. Those may be true, but if you look at the level of awareness as far as autism is concerned, that may be a factor for the rise in cases of autistic individuals, because the more parents are being aware, the more individuals are being aware of what autism is, how autism can be identified, or how autism can be diagnosed. It actually leads to people seeking a diagnosis as well. And then according to the DSM-5, which is the tool that they use, the strategy that they use to diagnose autism, their definition has also varied over the years, which many more factors have been included when they are diagnosing autism. Says that, oh my goodness me. Ooh.
Have we lost Clarice? Okay. Is it okay? Okay.
I'd like to say that in America, it's 1 in 59. I think girls and boys. And I think with the CDC, what they have out there is like 1 in 68 children. So the prevalence there is quite high. And what we say back here in Ghana, we know that the prevalence rate is also quite high because the number of children that we get for assessment within a certain period, or within a week maybe, or a month, you get about 3 children coming, and you can pick 2 of them as having autism. That's quite high.
Wow. And like Clarice is saying, do we think, I mean, compared to, now and before, I mean, Clarice is saying, we are saying that, the number is quite high. Do we think that, is it because, I mean, Clarice just said that environmental factors could contribute to this. Are we also saying that, people are now becoming more aware, people are going for, diagnosis, assessment? Do you think that the awareness is there, or because of more education, people are now, and I mean, that accounts for people, the high number we have now?
I would say for me personally, because I taught in Texas, Oklahoma, and other states. I'm a general education teacher. So with my position, if I have a student that has a disability, they're put into a general ed classroom, and then they're sourced out to go to a different teacher to receive services. But I feel like in the past 10 years, it's come a very long way. It's very progressive. And I feel like now that, having a diagnosis is more acceptable now in 2020 than what it was 10 years ago. I know personally as a teacher, if I see a student, I'm pretty good now to a science where I can kind of look at them and I can maybe tell that they have, some underlying things going on. And then I'm able to go and report and be like, does this student, because here we use an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. So I can go to my diagnostician at my school and ask her, do they have an IEP? And then they're like, no, they don't. I can say, okay, well, I need to put them on the testing list so that we can kind of get things jump started. And on that testing list, they're seen by the school psychologist, and they go through a battery of tests so that we're able to get an exact diagnosis so that we're able to service them. Because yes, we have people that come in and do ABA therapy with the kids. We have people that come in and do psychiatric therapy. It just depends on whatever the need is for that particular student. So I do believe that now it is widely more accepted for kids to be autistic because as in like William's case that he was speaking about, in my point of view, that would be a highly functioning autistic student. So we see those a lot. They're very, very smart, but they may lack social skills. So if I see a child that is excelling in class, or they sometimes may be a little lethargic on their work side, but if I can see that they have the drive and the skill, but they're socially immature, then that's a flag to me that they may have something a little bit more going on. Then as their teacher, I take the necessary steps to get the wheel rolling. So I definitely think, yes, environmental issues for sure. But the fact that now in schools, we now have teams in place, which consists of a general ed teacher. It consists of a special education teacher. It consists of a speech pathologist, a school psych, and a diagnostician. So as a team, we come in and implement those plans so that the student is ready and they can take off and soar in their, their school life and their home life, because the skills are taught to help them progress in every aspect of their life.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, William, obviously, as an early years teacher, would you say the same for the UK? Would you be able to? I mean, are you supposed to be able to identify people, children who are likely to be on the spectrum to be put forward for assessment?
Well, as an early years educator, it's our duty to make sure we take the best course of action for the good of all the children. And indeed, yes, one of our duties is to watch out for any signs or issues that a child may need support with. Now, it's very difficult for children to be diagnosed at such a young age. Obviously, you can diagnose a child from the age of 18 months onwards, but mostly professionals are quite reluctant to do so. That's it. So often we come across children who are showing some of the signs of autism. I'll take you through some of the signs. We don't call them symptoms. Actually, we call them traits. From the autistic point of view, and speaking as an autistic advocate, I would rather use the words autistic rather than with autism. I'll explain later on. Yeah, should I explain it right now or later on? Yeah,
please do now before now. Yeah.
All right. So these are some of the terminologies that we will use. I would say autistic rather than with autism. That's what we call the identity first, because autism is part of who I am. It's part of my identity. I'll not describe you as a lady with blackness, but I'll describe you as a black lady, because blackness is one of your identities. And if you say that someone is with autism, it's almost like saying someone is with a disease, with cancer, with eczema, but that's not the case. It's part of who we are. And if someone is with autism, it means the person can be without autism. And if you say the person is can be without autism, that's what promotes people to come up with these cures. And as an autistic advocate, we do not advocate it. So almost all of the I'm not speaking for everyone, but the majority of us on the spectrum would say that we will endorse saying autistic rather than with autism. In the same way, we use signs, not symptoms, because it's not a disease. So we look out for signs and traits in the early years as well, and we will inform the parents. We can also make a referral directly to the speech and language professionals, just for some intervention to be put in place.
Wow, that's interesting. So
because we don't diagnose early. I've taught early childhood, but we will document so that we kind of have a running record, so that we, can identify, as the student goes on. But about first grade, which is about 6-7 years old, then if we still see those same, traits that have been identified before, then we'll move forward with the testing part.
I have to say that a lot of the parents, they get quite upset with the doctors or those who are the diagnosticians and say why they saw all these signs. Because sometimes when they see somebody's done an assessment and they're happy to say the child has ADHD. A lot of families, the word autism is like the taboo word or something. But when they come, and what we do, we say, okay, let's see this child for about a month here. Let the child come in. We want to see how the child plays, especially in the early years. What are they toilet trained? And you see the behavior, you see the social skills, and we look at that. And then sometimes we work with a wonderful doctor here in Ghana, and we go and we say, this is what we're saying. Because you've seen them for a whole month instead of just that short period of time. And for my son, he was diagnosed very early because they said that was he was 2 years old, a long time ago. And they said infantile autism at that time. Because at that time, he was just mute. He wouldn't say anything. And the prognosis was rather dire. And we can talk about him much later on, but, there's nothing dire about him at all now. But he was born with a cord around his neck. So obviously there was kind of shortage of oxygen to his brain. And I really believe that. And then at 15 months, he had a very severe fever that wouldn't go away for days. So further damage. And I believe that these are all the reasons why he became autistic. And I agree with William, I agree with you. I think autistic is a good word. Yeah.
Wow. Whilst we are, thank you. We are learning, and I am really learning so much here. In terms of, whilst I am, Madam Sewa was talking, I was just thinking about causes or situations which would increase the risk of, a child, being autistic. Madam Sewa, please, could we know what are some of the situations, or what are some of the causes of autism?
Nobody knows what causes autism.
Okay.
But
okay.
as I said earlier, it could be, I believe, birth injury. This is my belief. That birth injury could be one. It could be environmental, but mostly, as the science says, is genetic. So I have children at the center, and I look at the parents, and sometimes I go, okay, because when they come and give me all kinds of, issues, I have to come and understand them. Their parents have had problems with. But when I understood, I haven't told them they have autism because, like I said, they see it. There's a huge stigma that we're going to be talking about, and the rest of us. So, but I just try to understand. But back here in Ghana and in Africa, the very intelligent, well-educated people, they're given the diagnosis of autism, and they don't want to know. It can't be my family. And usually I'm going back to the stigma thing here, but they usually would blame the mother, or they just hide. I know of doctors, medical doctors, who will not seek or treat any training until very, very late. Go figure. Because they're trying to maybe wish their autism away. And because here I am this big doctor or big professional, and my son has been diagnosed with autism. So the situation they're in is rather dire from the very educated and the uneducated. It cuts across board here in Ghana and the whole of Africa, because people are living in denial. And sometimes somebody said something that when they get to know and you train them, you have to do awareness, and more awareness, and do a lot of training for parents to let them come to understand. And we even do sibling training as well, to come and understand that the A word, as we say, it's okay. Just learn to live with it. And there are wonderful people like William, who is telling us about, autism. And, but they have to see more examples of William. But unfortunately, I have met people that I was telling them about this program today. And I said, you guys need to get the assessment done, because you know them and you know they're on the spectrum. But they don't want anybody to know, because they feel, oh, I am managing, like William said, it took him another 5 years. They are managing. And so because of the stigma, they'll rather keep quiet. And that's really a shame.
Madam Sewa, did you say that sometimes mothers can be blamed for the condition?
Almost all the time here in Ghana.
Wow.
Yes.
Why?
And I guess my daughter here, Clarice, would also say, yeah, mothers are blamed, even in the diaspora, when there's so much support. People blame each other. The blame game goes on, and it needs to stop. So many, excuse me, too many of the men run away. Too many of the men leave. And that's what we experience here.
I'm just trying to understand, on what basis will a mother be blamed? I mean, on what basis? I'm just trying to make sense of people's arguments.
Anybody with any kind of disability in Ghana, I can talk about Ghana, they see you first as it is something that you did, or your husband did, or your relatives somewhere did, or your mother, maybe as soon as you get to be my age, is something, and everybody calls you a witch because it's something not by the norm. And so everybody blames you, or they talk behind your back, even family members, and people blame you. And then they have something here in Ghana, what they call sikadro. It's maybe have one car or two cars in them. Or, if you're little or to do, you can manage your life. And if you're a man, they blame the man too, that, oh, maybe he took the child to go and do some rituals or something. And that's
okay.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So it's
and clearly this shows lack of awareness, which means that education is, we would continue to need to educate, to raise awareness, because if society, if we are blaming mothers, we are blaming like parents, for this condition, and then, associating like, witchcraft or, whatever, then it means that society will not be in that, the very people saying this, they will not be able to be in a position to, support this family and support the child because the awareness is not there.
This is what we've been doing for 22 years, being on the media, TV, radio, print, and social media, and the campaign, we're going and we're going and we're going and we're carrying on. And so we're taking it as far as we can. And thankfully, because of what we've done in Ghana, there are more centers now being opened.
Wow.
Too many are based in Accra.
Wow.
And there are few now going to Kumasi, the north.
Wow.
And the situation in the north is rather dire. So we need to do more. And I think when I speak, I know that this also goes for a lot of places in Africa.
Yeah. Wow. Should we come to you, Clarice? I mean, we're still talking about the causes or what situations are likely to increase the risk of a person or a child being diagnosed with autism. Could you share your experience or your knowledge around this, please?
All right. Yeah, thank you for that. Sorry, I think I was carried away with the show and I didn't notice that my battery was low. So
okay.
I'm back now.
Yeah.
In addition to what Mom Sewa said about mothers especially being blamed for their children being autistic, or mothers even making up stories or exaggerating that their children are autistic. If you look way back in 1943, when Leo Kanner when he first identified autism, if you remember, he actually came up with the refrigerator mother's theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he said children who are autistic are children who lack maternal warmth, are children who were being neglected by their parents. So that's why their parents that's why the children are autistic. So the fact that parents are being blamed that their children are autistic is not really something that started today.
Wow.
Even way back when autism was first diagnosed, but that theory, I think it was discarded because it doesn't really it didn't hold ground. So talking about the causes, research shows that there's no major cause for autism. I know there are some schools of thought who argue, and there are parents who seem to prove that their children being autistic is caused by the MMR vaccine. I know there are parents who speak so strongly about this vaccine issue. I cannot say no. I cannot say yes, because I know that my child being autistic is because of his premature birth. And because I haven't yet seen any major research that pinpoints that this is the exact cause of autism. And we all know that autism is a neurological condition, and it's a lifelong condition. So which means the child's brain or the individual's brain is wired differently. And so there are risk factors that may lead to someone being autistic. And like I mentioned earlier, premature birth is one of them. I am not a medical person, so I cannot really go into further to explain how that comes about. But most children who are born premature, especially the extreme premature ones, some of them do have brain problems. They may have had a brain hemorrhage, and that may be a problem in the long run that may make them have some traits of autism. Also, some children who are born with Down syndrome are at a higher risk of being autistic. And then I also read somewhere that fathers who are a bit older, I don't know how the statistics were being carried, as a likelihood of having an autistic child, and also a sibling of an autistic person may also be autistic. So those are some of the things which which I've read. So, and I may just like to include that the Autistic Society says that that's the Autism Society of America. It states that there is no known single cause for autism spectrum disorder, but it is generally accepted that it is caused by abnormalities in brain structure or function. So brain scans show differences in the shape and structure of the brain in children with autism compared to in neurotypical children. So the researchers do not really know the exact cause of autism, but they are investigating a number of theories, including the links and among heredity, genetics, and medical problems. And then Autistic Society of in the UK, they say the causes of autism are still being investigated, and many experts believe that the pattern of behavior from which autism is diagnosed may not result from a single cause. So there is strong evidence to suggest that autism can be caused by a variety of physical factors, all of which affect brain development. So it is not due to emotional deprivation or the way a person has been brought up that will cause autism. So that's just some of the research I have done. I would personally say I don't know if there's a fixed cause, if we can really say this particular thing causes autism or that one causes autism, but there are risk factors which I can actually say because my child was born premature and he had a brain problem and he's autistic, which is one of his difficulties here.
And I think that, thank you for that. That is very informative. And I think, like, Madam Sewa was saying, there's no, we don't have a definite answer for that. There's no particular thing that causes autism, but then a range of factors can increase the risk of, autism. So thank you so much for, that information. And then again, if so. I want us to look at the signs or characteristics to look out for. How do you know that? Okay, so I have a child. How do I know that this child may be on the autistic spectrum? How do I know that I really need to be seeking advice, or I really need to be putting my child forward for assessment? What are the things a parent or a carer should look out for to be worried or to be concerned and to make a decision that I need support?
Okay. One of the questions I've had from many parents is, can autism be diagnosed during antenatal clinic?
Oh, okay.
I usually say no, because you cannot use a blood sample or any other sample to check if a child is autistic. We all know that, as we said, autism is a neurological developmental condition. So which means it affects the child in the way he or she behaves and interacts. So normally you will be looking at developmental factors or developmental milestones in a child. So some children have been diagnosed with autism as young as 2, even though before 2, a parent would have started noticing some differences. So things like a child avoiding eye contact. You talk to the child or you are calling the child's name. He or she doesn't instantly look at you, as compared to a neurotypical child or a child who is not autistic. Then autism affects the way a child communicates, either with being a verbal or too verbal or being non-verbal. So a child who is autistic may have a delayed speech and communication skills, even though some autistic children, they can speak. They speak very fluently. They can talk for England. But the only thing is that they will be repeating whatever you say or whatever question you ask them, which is called echolalia. So we also have to look out for that as well. If that form of communication, if it is a problem, then a parent may also have to start looking at it. If each time you are speaking to your child, the child repeats back what you are saying before he or she answers. So a parent also has to keep an eye on that. Then an autistic child will rely so much on routine. and will create will have a meltdown if whatever he or she was doing, you've interrupted or you've changed the pattern. Like there are some children, they know that every morning they get up from their bed, they leave their bed, they go to the bathroom, they change out of the pajamas, go into the bath, have the bath, go downstairs, have the breakfast, then they go to the bus. So when you change that, it becomes a problem. And some autistic children, they will they want the bus to take a particular route to school every day and back. And if the school bus changes that route, it becomes a problem. And which leads to them being upset about those minor change. It may be minor to us who are not autistic, but to them it's a major disruption in their normal routines. Then they will have an unexpected reactions to sounds, to taste, to sight, or touch, or even smell. If you've seen a child like that in a crowded area, or even at home, once you see a child putting the hands on the ears, sometimes they cover their eyes and they're covering their ears. Parents, you really have to look out for, because some autistic individuals, they will describe that the sound that they get, it hurts the ears, it's painful. You and I, who are not autistic, may not feel it, but some children, when they close their eyes and they cover their ears, it's because it's annoying, it's painful, and they can no longer concentrate. So parents have to keep an eye on that as well. They will also have difficulties in understanding other people's emotions. So they may not be able to tell if I'm angry. You know, most of us African parents, we like to communicate with our children. We using faces, using signs, those emotions on our face. If I just give you a bad look or a bad eye, I expect you to understand that look means you should stop what you are doing. But an autistic child may not understand the meaning of that look. You may think that you're trying to say something or to communicate to him or her. So then they also focus, or they're being obsessed with particular things, maybe toys. If it's a toy train, they may focus on a particular part on the wheels of the car or of the toy train. So parents, you also keep an eye on that. Then they engage in repetitive behavior. Is it rocking? Is it hand flapping? Is it jumping up and down? But they like to do one thing over and over. Parents who have children who watch YouTube videos, who are really into music and YouTube, pay attention to the music that your child is listening. If you keep hearing the same song over and over, especially a particular section of the song, just pay attention. However, these signs or these symptoms may not apply to every child, because we know that once you've met one child with autism, you've met just that one child. So it may differ from one child to another. Some children develop differently. Some children are slower than others. So a delay in speech, a delay in communication skills may not necessarily be a sign that the child is autistic. But parents, you do have to be alert. You watch, you monitor your child, even if it means you writing down, journaling your child's development, especially, is it 9 months, 18 months, 30 months, and things like that. Keep a close eye on how your child is developing. And then I also mentioned that children not responding to their names by 12 months.
Okay.
Also, it will be a cause of concern. Yeah. And one of the things as well, most autistic children, I don't know if I should say most or some, they find it difficult pointing to an object. That's why sometimes, especially those who do not communicate verbally, they'll prefer to push, to pull you, to take you by the hand to an item, to something that they want, instead of pointing. So you also watch out. And when a child starts walking as well, parents, watch out the way they walk. When they are tiptoeing, it may not be a sign that they are autistic, but watch out. If your child is walking on tiptoes, please. And whenever, I usually tell parents that as a parent, you need to follow your instincts. Do not let someone tell you, oh no, the child is just slow. Yes, we know that children develop differently, but you, as a parent, follow what your instincts tell you to do as far as your child is concerned, because we know that the earlier the assessment, the earlier the diagnosis, the quicker the intervention, and the better your child will improve in the long run. You leave it for too long, it's going to become a problem, because each child with autism is capable of achieving a certain level of independence, is capable of being treated. When I say treatment, I don't mean being treated because autism is an illness or it's a disease. No, autism cannot be cured, but there are management techniques, there are strategies which they can use to help manage your child's condition. Is it speech and language therapist? Is it occupational therapist? Is it a music therapist? It all varies depending on the child's needs. So that's all I can say.
Wow, thank you.
Like
thank you so much. Yeah. Before we come to William, because I want William and also Juliet and Mami Sewa to also give us in terms of the science, what they have seen, and so you can share with us. I want us to look at some of the comments we've got over here. We've got Kofi who's saying that impressive panel, have high expectations for discussion in this topic. We've got Madam Martins Lillian who is saying awesome. And then we've got Mr. Paul Watson who is saying that Madam Sewa, so much experience behind you, well done. And we've got again very experienced panel. Sure, there's going to be so much to learn. Again, interesting story, William, of your own story, sharing your story with us. That is really fantastic. We've got Gladys. Gladys is saying interesting. We've got Madam Martins again saying that really informative. And we've got Madam Tina who is saying that, when Juliet was talking about, the individual education plan, Madam Tina is saying that we've got a similar, setup in the UK. William, I know we've got the education healthcare plan in the UK, isn't it? Which
yes,
we will talk about later on, in one of our sessions. We've got Madam Gail who is saying that, yes, my son was diagnosed at the age of 6. Thank you, Gail, for sharing this with us. We've got Madame Akwele Otu, who is saying that thanks for sharing your experiences and your knowledge with the team. And we've got Madame Agnes Aqua, who is saying that hello everybody and God bless you all. Thank you so much. We need all the blessings we can get. We've got Madame Joanne Yampo Ellis, who is saying that interesting discussion. She's learning a lot. And we've got Mr. Paul Watson, who is saying that, Madam Sewa, are there any institutions in Ghana where parents can send their autistic children to? Are you able to respond to this, Madam Sewa?
Yes, I'm able to. Actually, when we talk about institutions, I'm sorry. The word institution is not what I like to hear, because it's like somewhere to dump them. Because everybody's looking for boarding where parents are not going to be responsible for their care of their children. Yes, we have centers and schools that they can go to, but we're not looking at boarding, because with boarding is not the thing of the future. In America and the UK, they're doing away with all the institutions and trying to have day programs for most children where you go to school. I think Juliet can speak to this, because in Ghana, people call too often and ask for a boarding place. No, we now have centers coming up for that people can come to. Thankfully, more people are coming now and setting up these centers. Like I said, we wish people would go to the outside of Accra, like go to Kumasi, Koforidua, Cape Coast. There's Whitney there. She's an American married to a Ghanaian who started the center there, and I think there's something in Takrady. So it's slowly going. But what we do is we train people from the different regions. We ask them to come in and get trained so they can train their people.
Okay.
And I think I wanted to say something about what Clarice said. some of these children also may not even notice pain. Some children, and some of them also don't really recognize what pleasure is. So some of these things you slowly have to, and they can be taught. They can let them know. I have a boy there that for a long time, he could step on anything. But slowly, and because of the sensory, which we will come to, this is the reason that, as you work with him over the years, and this is this touch and this is that, and we do a lot of massaging at the center also, that helps them. And they're different things. Sometimes not just the eye contact. Is he really, when he looks at you, somebody is looking at you, you think they're giving you eye contact, but they're not. They're spaced out. They are looking through you. It's important to know that. So some people say, oh, they give eye contact, okay, but be with them for a while. This is why we have the children stay sometimes for a long time to really assess them, even though the doctor has seen them, and we don't have an educational psychologist, as Juliet mentioned. But with the little experience we've had, when we take videos and show to the people that we work with outside, and then they can tell. It's important to see these children over a period of time, because for somebody like William, I have a child that William remind me to send me your number, so we can talk about the different people with autism that I'm coming across. There's a wonderful artist. He went to secondary school and he does amazing work. Finally, he's accepted that he has autism. But people kept calling him a madman, because he gets very upset because there's no support for him. His mother died and his father died. It's really sad. So that's for another day. Yes.
Okay, I would like to add something. Where's my camera gone?
I don't even know.
Okay, yeah. I'd like to add something to what Clarice said. First of all, she mentioned about children flapping and jumping. That's called stimming. These are some of the behaviors you have to be watching out for your children. Now, if you see your child doing that, please do not stop them, because it's their way of regulating themselves. And to stimulate themselves in an unstimulating environment, or to calm themselves when the environment is too stimulating. Another issue is when they walk on their toes, for example. It's due to sensory processing. The under of their feet are very, very sensitive. Yeah. So when they're walking barefooted, it's very uncomfortable for them. So they actually have to walk on their feet. It's not everyone who does that, but some of them do that. Now, when you see them doing that, please do not stop them. That's one of the reasons why I do not endorse this practice called ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. Now, ABA is almost like what we call in autistic circle dog training for autistic individuals. We find it quite demeaning because it actually forces you to act like neurotypicals without taking into account why you behave the way you do, why you act the way you do. So it's almost like torture. You go to a place where the sound is really hurting your ears, yet you are not allowed to cover your ears because you have to lay your palms flat. You have to do what you are told and you get rewards. If you don't do what you're told, your rewards is going to be withheld from you. It's almost like an infringement upon human rights. So that's one of the things that my organization campaign against. But I've noticed that in many places like Ghana, for example, it is quite endorsed and quite rampant. So I'm not saying don't do it is bad, but I'm saying that from the autistic point of view, it's quite harmful to us. And I know people who have undergone it and they are now adults and they are suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because of ABA. So it's one of the things we're looking at.
Yes, Madam Sewa,
it's not rampant in Ghana. A few people are using, but we have to say APA now, the way APA is being practiced by some people, we're looking at culturally adaptive practices. And there's a lady who did a study at her place, and it's because I said the same thing that William has said, because I called it dog training. But there are times that children have very severe behavior challenges, that I have seen, and maybe I wish they would change the name and come, because they focus on not only behavior, but communication, OT, and the social skills. All of these things together, because what I have seen, because if you come and you do dog training at our center, I'll ask you to leave, because we are not here to change people into different types of human beings. And I know exactly what you're talking about, William, because my son experienced that kind of thing when he was younger, when maybe he was just starting. So I have fought it over the years, but I have seen people who practice proper behavior therapy, which sometimes people need, people in mental, all of us. Sometimes we need, when you're doing something that is not quite the norm, you need somebody to just like, why do we see psychologists? Because for me, that's kind of, so I will plug them. They're all not the same. So
wow.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I have a master's in education. And then after I finished my master's, I went on to take some ABA classes, just because at the particular school I was at, my first year, I had a student I had two. I had one that was intellectually disabled, and I had another one that was oppositionally defiant and emotionally disturbed. And then my second year, I had a student that was highly functioning. And then my third year, I had the same thing, ODD, ED, also mixed with a multitude of other diagnoses. So I started taking ABA classes just to kind of to grow myself as an educator and to learn a little bit more, because like I said, I'm a general ed teacher. Since I am a general ed teacher, I don't take, my coursework includes some, classes for individuals with disabilities, but not as much as a special education teacher. So I did take on some of those ABA classes myself. Did I learn some things? Of course. But was it some of the things that I already knew? Yes. But I think, again, it has progressively grown over the years as we've become more knowledgeable with, dealing with students with disabilities. But I just wanted to add on to everything that everyone has said. Those are the same things that I look for in the classroom. I can recall, like I said, I taught first grade last year, and I actually had a student that had a twin brother and a brother in second grade, and they were all diagnosed this past year. And he exhibited some of those behaviors. He walked on his toes. He was obsessed with trains and figuring out how they worked, very routine-ish. So, those are all things that we pay attention to in the classroom as well. And then for me as their teacher, I'll write these things down. And a lot of the time what I've seen is the parents have noticed the same things, but sometimes they don't know where to go. So I think we've got to become progressive in that, as well as being a resource for people, because I think, yes, parents see traits and, teachers see things, but we're not having those true conversations about the things that we're really seeing, because sometimes I know for me, I'm very straightforward as a teacher. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything when it comes to your child, because that, to me, that is unethical. It is unethical of me to tell you that everything is great when it's not. So I'm very straightforward in how I give my information. And I can recall this same student, I had that conversation. He was placed in my class in August. I had this conversation in October about, I don't know if you're seeing these things at home, but this is what I'm seeing at school. And it was a conversation that was had, and it was like, oh yes, I've seen those same things. What can I do next? So I think, us sharing this wealth of knowledge and putting it out there, not to only just, parents or teachers, just to the general public, is going to be what gets this really going, because we need to be more aware of when our students and children at home are exhibiting these things and putting things in place to help. Because again, just thinking back, I can recall, yes, I'm pretty sure, there's been a lot of undiagnosed people, but I know personally, a lot of people, even when it comes to speech and language pathology here in the United States, it is put under what they call the special education umbrella. And that word, special education, scares people. So use that word, it's like you're labeling my child, And a lot of parents refuse services because they automatically think when they hear the word special education that it means something else. So we've got to make sure that we're using the correct terminology. We got to make sure that we're educating people and knowing, yes, even though they may be put under the special education umbrella, it's because that is what the service is, given. That's what the service is under. So like speech and language pathology, it is given under the special education blanket because we issue an IEP for that student. So it's not that we're labeling the child as special education, but what we need to give them, that service, is under special education. So I think, again, everything that we're saying here is on target and it is correct. And it's about being knowledgeable and making sure that as a resource that we're putting out all that information to let people know, yeah, we can definitely give things here and give things there, but please be vigilant. Write things down, write down times, write down dates. Let these, keep a journal if you see certain things to see, because maybe at 6 months they may be displaying something that they're not showing at 9 months, and at 9 months they may be displaying something that they're not showing at 12 months. So just making sure that we're on top of it and being very vigilant when it comes to our children.
Wow.
I must say, as a mother, when you say be vigilant, sometimes the challenges of autism, it's so difficult that you don't even have time to sleep. There have been that I barely got 2 hours a night. So I'm walking around with my, and then with parents who have to go to work, they have to take care of other children, and they have to do, I say this to parents, like you have a parent meeting, you have a parent training, and they don't come, and I get quite upset with them. But then as a parent also, I try to put myself in their shoes, what was your night like? And then trying to, so we have to work together, the teachers, and all of us have to work together to support the families. Because sometimes, I being the founder of the center, I see things that haven't been done. Somebody says, oh, we didn't get homework. I gave you the homework, but it wasn't done. And then you can't explain to me, sometimes, yeah, it's good for them to, but we have a lot of parents who are also uneducated. And I'm sure the same thing for Cameroon and in Africa. So there's a lot that they cannot write down or they cannot do. So we have to see how we work with our people here in Africa, because it is very, very difficult. I'm talking like somebody from Accra, but then when we go outside, and go into the, I would say, suburb is not the right word, but we go into the villages or beyond that, you see that the situation is rather dire. Even they live in homes where you cannot even do any kind of one-on-one kind of care, because there's no space to give in a private corner to even work with this child. So it's very, very difficult, and we try to tell them, if you can even get under the tree and try and get it very quiet, or even and get other children involved in the area. So what we're trying to do is to try and also work with communities and not just families, because they have to understand, because there's a woman, I think Clarice knows that she's in, who works with communities from the PACA conference that we went to. And I learned a lot from her, because if your mother sells kinky or by the roadside, everybody within that area is going to know about autism, because they all know about this child. So when the child is within their area, they can watch out for him, because you know how they take flight. Before you can say Jack, the child is missing. So you can tell the people within your communities, not just the families. For Africa, our needs are really, I think, a little different than the needs of the people out there in the, I'll say the developing countries, as compared to the developed or whatever they call it. Okay. Yeah. So it's very, very challenging back here in Ghana.
Okay. So we've got various challenges in various societies. I'd like to go on to a few of the comments. So we've got Antonio, who's saying that our beliefs and culture is really harming. And I believe that when Madam Sewa was talking about, people, when we're looking at the diagnosis and, when she was mentioning how people would think that witchcraft is contributing to, a person being diagnosed with autism. So thank you, Antonio, for for your contribution. We've got Amma Bracco, who is saying that as a media person, it can't say this is, very educated. So thank you, Amma, for your contribution. We've got our own William Ejapong. William is saying that we blame everything on witchcraft or bonsam the devil in our society. We've got Amma again, who is saying that, well, Amma is saying over here that have worked with Madam Sewa, and I can say she's doing a very, good job in Ghana. Wow. I mean, we can see that. So thank you, Amma. And we've got William again, who is saying that absolutely is holding us back big time. Hopefully, this awareness would hit home well and change mindset. So this is what we are doing, educating, creating awareness, and so that people would learn, people would get to know things, and then people would be able to also teach other people. So we've got a question over here that as an autistic child grows into adulthood, does the severity of the condition remain the same, or does it increase? So are we able to look at this question? William, do you want to start?
Yes, I'll set the ball rolling by saying that it all depends on the individual. There's not a one size fits all everything. I'll use myself as an example. As a child, what I was as a child is totally different, or how I behaved as a child was totally different from how I am right now. As a child, for example, in kindergarten, class 1, I didn't have any friend. I was just walking by myself. I was very interested in stones, picking up stones, breaking them to see what's inside. But right now, I'm completely different. So it all depends on the individual. For some people, they might improve or progress due to education, intervention methods. For others, they might regress depending on if they don't get the support they need. That's why it's very vital, or it's crucial, to get a diagnosis, because the diagnosis will lead to getting the support that's needed. People who don't get their diagnosis end up with situations like depression, anxiety, self-harm, and exploitation from others. And that alone can even increase the severity of their condition. So once again, it depends.
Thank you, William. In terms of Juliet, what are your thoughts on this also? I mean, the question over here is asking that, when an autistic child grows into adulthood, does the severity of the condition remain the same, or does it increase? What are your thoughts also here?
I would agree with William, because it depends on the child, and it depends on these the diagnoses. There's several different. Here we call it a spectrum. So they can lie anywhere within the spectrum. So just depending on quick the interventions are put in place and how they're supported. Because honestly, that's kind of, to me, what it boils down to is how much support is there really there the progression and stability for the student or for the child. So I would agree with his statement. It just depends on the environment, if they're receiving what they're supposed to receive, if they and the commitment behind it from both parties.
Wow. So yes, and then totally agree. The point over here is that the key thing is that support, and I think, like Madam Sewa said, early intervention is key. Obviously, you don't want to wait till you are 40, and like William, unfortunately, early intervention is key, so that you can get the support ASAP, right from the word go. Madam Sewa.
Yes, I want to say something. Because autism is such a spectrum, there's so many people who have severe autism. We tend to marginalize them. I think so many people belong to a WhatsApp group, and the challenges are so different, especially when you start getting to what's the word? Teenage years, adults, and then from there to the adulthood. And adolescence is what I was looking for. And for me, that's what I experienced. My son was very manageable, very young. It was like, oh, he has autism, it's hard, it's difficult. But from the age of 12, when the hormones set in, I had a different child, completely, on my hands. Aggression was what? And then he developed seizures also at 16. So these were, and then it was further brain damage because he had a grand mal seizure once, went to the hospital, done all kinds of tests. Nobody knows, has ever found what caused the seizure. For a long time, he was on seizure medication, it's not anymore. But there are many people who call me and say they're teenagers. They're having difficulties it's very, very, very challenging. Even though they may have had all the services that they had as child, early childhood, everything, but the hormones set in and it's like, whoa. Some of them have sleepless nights. They sleep nada, not 1 second. And they are up all night. And they have, I have all these children, different children. So it's important when a lot of people talk about, oh, the children who are doing well, the children who are doing well. What about the children who are not doing well? And there's so many children who have very, very serious difficulties. And we have to also remember the comorbid conditions with autism. Well, they may have autism and something else. Autism and the different things. So we don't know really where this is going. I have had a few children over the age of 14, and we see these behavior challenges. This is where I have found that ABA, the ones we have worked with, because we call them, how do we do this? How do we do? And we make sure that we don't change. There's the negative behavior that we don't want to see, but you don't want to change the person for who they are. They are autistic. We're not trying to change them as being an autistic person. So it's important to ask people here that we're not just talking about people who have Asperger's or who are doing well. Like my son, he doesn't have Asperger's, but he's doing extremely well. And but they're also persons from teenage to adulthood who are still having challenges and have to be medicated. And some of them are on psychotropic drugs, and it breaks my heart because these drugs are no good for us. No good for everyone. At our center, what we do when you come here taking those medications, I will sit down with you and say, I'm not a doctor, but I will recommend that you can come off it, and we will try and manage the problems. And once you work with it, you have to work with it. If you refuse to, and you think you can just dump your child, which we see a lot in Africa, dump your child and you go to work because you're busy with your highfalutin job, I'm sorry, but we know what we have done with the kids and how they're doing well and put them into adulthood. And you can tell now they're being able to sleep, and they needed some medication to get them. I'm somebody who doesn't like medication at all, but I understand that my son was on medication, and I titrated it down slowly and slowly, not just the seizure medication, but he was put on some horrible drug called Risperdal, and then some other one that I think really made him like a madman. And because I'm a nurse practitioner, I did, because when you talk to doctors, they don't really listen sometimes. They're wonderful doctors, but there are some doctors who don't really listen. And sorry, doctors, but you need to listen to parents. So this is where some parents are really struggling with severe autism.
Yeah, wow, thank you for that. Yeah, Clarice.
Can I add to that? Thank you, Mom. Sure. I just wanted to add to what William, Juliet, and Mom Sewa have said. Yes, a child with autism will grow up as an adult with autism, and as well how severe it's going to affect them in the long run or in the future will depend on the intervention. However, as Mom said, there are some autistic children who have co-occurring conditions, who have comorbidities, which like cerebral palsy, epilepsy, which come in now and worsen the autism that's already affecting them. And in the long run, it affects them more, depending on how those co-occurring conditions have been managed. And also, we as parents, as family members, or as teachers, there are times I think we do it unconsciously. We tend to call an autistic person a child, even when they are an adult. Remember that this autistic child is growing up. His age is also changing. He's gradually becoming an adult. He's gradually becoming a man and a grown-up person. In himself, he also needs to be treated like a grown-up person. But at some point, some parents, we still treat them like children, which especially those who cannot communicate verbally. there are times you may shout at them, but they also know that I need a bit of, I deserve a little bit of respect. You can't just be shouting at me. But they cannot actually verbalize that, and which may actually lead to a challenging behavior. So as they are growing up, we also have to be aware that we have to be treating them as adults as well. And as the hormones are changing, so many things are changing. They are becoming sexually aware. There are so many things which is changing especially the boys, which is these things are changing in them, and they have these feelings, they have these emotions. Are us, the parents or teachers, are we acknowledging that that it is normal for them to feel these emotions, or are we trying to suppress these emotions which they are feeling? So we also have to bear to have that in mind as they are growing up. We should stop calling them children. Or we should also treat them like an adult. You tell them, I'm sorry if you've done something that is not right, or you speak to them gently, ask them, say please to them, can you do this for me, please? Yes. Sometimes they may be protesting because they remember that they say every behavior is a communication.
Of course,
so every challenging behavior in an autistic individual, it's something they are trying to say. And also, there's this statement that it's an African code where they say it takes a village to raise a child. And it is, in addition, it takes a child with autism to raise the consciousness of that village. So that autistic individual is not just the parent, it's not just a child to his or her parents. This child is a child for the community, because what if tomorrow the parent is not there? That community, they will have to help the child in a way. Yeah, so
that is, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, oh wow, this is just the best. All right, Madam Sewa, did you want to say something?
1 second, I just want to say that as severe as autism can be, and I talk about my son, he's able to go to work now. He does data entry, and he also does some collating and finishing work at a printing press. He's non-verbal. Well, I call him pre-verbal, because he's saying things but you can't really hear him. So this is challenges. And I wanted the Paul to hear that not only him, their older children, we try to place them in different places. They go to a place for a supermarket, then they go arrange shelves and things. So we're teaching them how they can be in the community and one day be able to be, community as well.
Wow. Thank you, Madam Sewa, for that. That is, and thank you, Clarice, and thank you, everyone. So we've got Ahmad Brack over here again saying that one major problem in Ghana as at now is that most families still believe or attribute autism to witchcraft or curse to the family. I hope one day you can discuss this to help parents and stand up to that. So obviously we are still creating awareness. And then we've got Gail over here who is saying that I noticed when my son wasn't communicating with people at the age of 1.5, I went to the GP. The midwife said he was fine. Then he started nursery at 3. His teacher also noticed it. I went back to the GP and the midwife came home to test him again, but she said he was fine. So he started school at 4 years. His teacher noticed and referred him through the school. So I think that's like, somebody like we've been saying, your child better, so this person is saying that, Gail is saying that, the midwife was saying that your child is fine, but then she kept insisting that, no, I think my child needs support. I think we need some kind of support. And she kept insisting because she saw that, there was something different about her child. So of course, your child better, and it's important that we are persistent in terms of, seeking support.
Midwives are not trained. They have no experience with children with autism. And many doctors also don't have experience with children with autism. So this is why they're saying, fine, if you go to a GP who has no clue, because how much knowledge do they give them during medical school or nursing school? When I was in nursing school, I remember they briefly mentioned autism. Briefly mentioned it during my site rotation. So it's something that the midwife didn't really know, and she should have made a referral. sooner than later.
Yeah, thank you for that. So Tina is saying that, what can we as parents do to help them? He has speech and language sessions in school with a therapist, but they don't really give him much information on how he is doing. So how can parents, what can we as parents do to help him? Yeah.
Parents have to work hand in hand with the teachers. Parents need you. It's your place to know what is happening with the child at school, because if you have a child who is nonverbal, how will you know what happened to the child at school? So parents will have to call. There has to be a communication book for school to home, home to school, where they write what has been happening. And parents also have to follow up the progress of the child, because they work together with the speech and language therapist. So this parent that Tina has mentioned about, please go, if it means having an appointment with the school head teacher, you go in there and find out exactly what's happening. Let them be documenting how your child is progressing, how you, the parent, can help the child as at home as well as at school, which means they have to work together.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that, just to back in that, because we're here. Like I said, we use IEP, so that is a legal binding document. And as an educator, if we not follow that, we can be sued and stripped of our licenses, because it is a legal binding document. So whatever that plan says, we have to follow step by step. We have to keep documentation, and we have meetings twice a year to sit down and go over, and of course more, but we have annual reviews of exactly what the skills are for the students, if the skills are being met and those goals are being met. So if they're not being met, or we need to add or take away, then we do those at those meetings. But in between those times as well, parents can call meetings, and we'll all assemble as a team. The administrator, a general ed teacher, the principal, the school counselor, and the dyac all sit in that meeting. So 6 people, including the parent, and we discuss what we need to do to better ensure, the follow-up of the student's skills, and making sure that the communication is kept between home and school.
Wow, thank you for that. We've got a few minutes to to finish the session, but I want us to just quickly look at a few other comments. So Gladys Akwelo is saying that brilliant panel with wealth of experience. Thank you so much. Tina is saying that interesting discussions, very informative. Thank you to the panel. Yeah, we've got Mr. Paul Barton saying that yes, moderator, thank you. We've got Gail saying thank you, Auntie. And then we've got a question over here saying that, can the use of hard drugs like cocaine by both parents lead to autism to the unborn child?
I would say no, but it could lead to premature birth, would be my answer. But I'm not a doctor.
And a premature and premature birth is also a risk factor for an autistic child.
Okay. So there can be. William, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I thought that's the same thing. It's okay. There's no research that proves that hard drugs can lead to autism. Yeah.
Okay, then we've got another contribution saying that in Ghana, especially in the countryside, some autistic children are tied up to prevent them moving around and causing more harm to themselves. Is that a right approach? Madam Sewa, what's your thoughts on that, please?
Definitely not. That's aversive therapy. And any type of aversive therapy that is used is a no.
That's inhumane.
It's inhumane. And we have people, right? There are people who are beating the children. I have told them not to. You advise them, but then that's their children. And I had a child, and this person was a doctor years ago. That the child would do all over, would put feces all over the walls and things. And one day, I think he's been beating him. So this comes to school, and we noticed welts on him. And so the caregiver comes and calls me, says they're giving him a shower. And I go and I'm like, what is this? So we have to take pictures, and I showed it to him. I said, do you have a new house help? I have to be smart. I'm not accusing anyone. Anybody else in your house who has done this to your child? Because nobody here has touched them. He looked at me straight in the eye and said, I did this. This is what he's been doing and I'm going to beat him until he stops. And this was a medical doctor. And he didn't have, and I said to him, well, you do this one more time, I'm reporting you to social services. But unfortunately, social services here, we have a lot of issues here because social care, it's very lacking. Who am I? He's a doctor. Who am I? In the end, he withdrew his son because I couldn't take it anymore with the way things were going with this child. And it's unfortunate. I know he's been to other centers and he hasn't improved, he hasn't done much. And it really, really bothers me. But there's so much one person can do. But this is not tying them up and things. I know people who do, but there's nothing we can do with telling them. And whenever we get on TV or radio and things, we tell them, you cannot beat them, you cannot do this, you cannot, because you're teaching them aggression. When they get older, they will suck you a big one, and you won't like it. Because I've seen it happen. Some people say, but he punched me in the face. But did you teach him, were you beating him? And now you taught him how to beat you. I mean, panelists, is this true or not? You can't be beating them because a non-verbal child, you keep beating them all the time because you think of them misbehaving. There's nothing like misbehaving when it comes to autism. They are being themselves. When they stare me and things, they don't want to see this thing. What kind of thing is this? They're regulating themselves. And if they would only come and do parental trainings, then they would learn. But it's slowly. We're doing this slowly. And we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes,
and
Clarice.
that physics smearing is part of sensory issue.
Yes, I wanted to say.
So some of them like that feel in their hands and that smearing on the wall, which is one of parents need to be trained as well on how to manage their children when they are doing that. And the child himself or herself, he or she doesn't think that what he is doing is wrong. Yes, to us it is not right because it's a sensory issue and that's part of the autism. So you can act as a parent, you can actually distract or derail the child or channel the child to a different activity. Or sometimes immediately you see the physics in the hands, don't make a big issue out of it. You can just come quietly, hold the hands, take the hands and wash them, or you take the child to the shower immediately. But when that happens as a parent beating up the child, that is still a lack of acceptance. We as we talk about autism every day, we have to go beyond awareness. Awareness is very important, but we have to get to that point of acceptance. And this acceptance starts with parent. If you a parent, you cannot accept your child, it's very difficult for an outsider or for the community to accept that child. Acceptance is a process. It doesn't take one day. Us parents of autistic children or any child with a disability, we also have that grief process we have to go through as well in order to be able to accept our child in the long run. Many people blame us that, oh, she's not able, she doesn't want to accept that child. She's saying this is not the child she wanted to have. Yes, when you are pregnant, you are not dreaming to have a child with a disability, with a condition. So it takes time for you, the parent, to be able to accept that child with that particular condition. So a parent who beats up the child, who doesn't accept the child, the parent also needs some form of training, some form of counseling. We also, when we talk about the children with autism, let's also think about parents. Parents do need help as well as the children.
Wow, thank you so much. Parents do need help as well as the children. Okay,
I just need to chip in one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We autistics, we have a very good memory. Whether we are non-verbal or not, we have a very good memory. Remember every single thing that you say, every single thing you do to us. So it's worth noting as parents that it's not like we are in a world of our own. It's not like we are not there, we are not aware. We have a self-awareness, even if we don't show it. So just please be careful of what you say in our presence or things you do to us. I, for example, I'm 42, yet I can remember every single single time I've been beaten. I can give you a list of who beat me, why, and everything. I can give it to you right now if you want. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, so it's worth
Wow.
noting.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
worth
Wow.
noting.
That is serious. Thank you so much, William.
You're
That is
welcome.
serious.
Yeah.
That is serious. Sometimes you may think that, oh, the child is autistic and the child is not aware of, of what is really happening around him or her. Please let us know that the child is a human being in his or her own right, and we need to accord the child the same respect and, as any other child. Thank you, William. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to, we've come to the end of our session, and as we normally do, we'll just go around for, people to have a few seconds just to wrap up. Just tell the audience what your final message or your final word for tonight or this evening or this afternoon session is. So give your final word to your viewers. So should we start with Clarice, please?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you brought me on this show today, and I hope we will be able to do more in the future. My message goes to parents. Parents, accept the child that you have right there in front of you. That's your child. You may have thought of another child when you were pregnant with him or her, but the one you have there, love him, love her, accept him for who he or she is, and open up. Talk to other parents who are going through the same situation. Do not isolate yourself, because when you give a voice to what worries you, you heal, and then you help heal others. And then you'll be strong enough to be able to take care of your child.
Wow. Thank you so much, Clarice. Can we come to William, please? What's your final word?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on this program. It's been very enlightening. I'm very honored. Now, my final word is that once again, accept the child, and also think about autism acceptance. Don't be afraid to accept it. I know in some certain societies it's almost like a taboo, but no, accept it, because that's the child. You can't have that child without the autism unless you take out the person's brain, because autism is the way the brain is wired. But what you can do is to give them support, and also find ways of having a support system. Listen to people like Mama Sewa, listen to people like Juliet, like Clarice, and speak to adults on the spectrum as well if you are in any doubt, any kind of doubt. There's support out there. And also have just get some rest as well. Try to find some rest, try to chill out, try to do the things that you enjoy doing. Find a way, because you are also in it. You need to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your child.
Wow. Your well-being is equally important.
Exactly.
So that you'll be at the right place to fully meet the needs of your child. That is really good. Thank you, William. And can we come to Madam Sewa, please? Your final word.
My final word would be thank you for inviting me to join you guys on the program. It's been really, I've learned a lot from everybody. But I want to talk first about the parents. You have to remember that the children are all individuals. No two children are the same. So you have to learn to dance to the tune of your child. When the child is trying, know that they are really doing their best. The little that they do is little steps, and try as parents to be calm when you're talking to them. Like I've learned something from William, who says every little beating that he had as a child, he remembers. That breaks my heart, because we go on beating our children. Well, I was in a place with my son because I wouldn't get beaten because I would be reported. But one time, I remember when he was a teenager and things were so tough, I hit him. And I'm ashamed of myself to say that. He broke my arm. This was before I came to Ghana. So we have to know that we can't just, even in our frustrations, always walk away. Walk away, because these children do grow. The little ones do grow. Some of them can be challenging. But yes, it is life. And this is the child you've been given. If you remove the child, like just said, you remove their brain, you can't expect to have one. This is the child God gave you. So work with it. It can be challenging. It is challenging. Yes, we've been through it. But please, do the best because this is your child. Nobody, if you don't accept this child, nobody will accept this child for you. You need to show, as they say, will Christ see, what will people see about you as a Christian? Let people see that you love this child. As you love Christ, let people see that you love your child and you go through anything, thick and thin, to do anything for this child. Don't you dare call my child names. Don't you dare. It's painful. Even when family members shun you and call you all kinds of names behind your back. But for me, develop a thick skin. It is hard. It's not easy, but it can be done. So know that there's support out there. We're here in Ghana, they're out there, and in the diaspora. I want to talk to people in the diaspora. You have the services there. Stop sitting idly and not getting the services that you deserve. It is there. Read and read and read about services, autism, whatever. Learn all you can. Because I, as a parent, I'm not a specialist. I had to learn. And this is where I am now. And you can also do it. So feel free. You can always call me in Ghana. I'm available.
Wow.
And I just want to say this last thing. COVID has been so challenging for us in Ghana, for our caregivers and parents. So I'm not ashamed to say this at all, that anyone who can support us out there, because people can barely feed themselves, their families. So I'm saying this out to anyone. They say get sanitizers, get soap and things. It is challenging. So anyone who's listening to us and you can support us, just let us know, and I will contact Elsie how to, reach us for support.
Thank you so much. Madam Sewa. So what we'll do is that next week, or the following sessions, we will put the information there in terms of how people can reach you and support you. We'll put the information out there. Thank you so much, for your final word. We will come on to Juliet. Yes, what is your final word to the audience or to the viewers?
I would just say, thank you so much for having me, come on here and share with you guys today. My biggest thing would be to be open-minded. Being open-minded to me is one of the biggest things right now, especially with so much going on in the world. Open-minded and being acceptant of others. And even though someone may not be like you, understanding where they're coming from and their challenges and being willing to learn. As a teacher myself, one thing that I've always promoted myself on is I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn everything. So being a lifelong learner. And even if something is not there for you, asking. It doesn't hurt to ask because there's never anything like I hear all the time. There's never a thing that's a dumb question. Ask us. We're more than willing to help. We're more than willing to share the knowledge and to make sure that we're all progressively moving forward in order to support, children, adults, family, community. Because that's what it's about. The community helping families and families helping the community.
Wow, we don't stop learning. We learn each day to do things better. So thank you so much. So finally we've come to the end of the session, and from me, and the viewers, I want to say thank you so much, to our panel, to our experts over here. Your wealth of knowledge shared this period is just super, it's just amazing. And the information over here is just, I don't even have the right words for it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I say thank you so much. Again, to our viewers, we want to say thank you, for being with us, for watching, for your comments, for your questions. We are all in this together. And as our panel members have said, we don't stop learning, and we would keep learning, and we will keep learning. So once again, thank you, and we are back on again next week, Thursday. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.